Hello everyone, I'm HJG White of the three white brothers who trade on eToro. We usually do a weekly video money talks every Thursday at around 11:30 p.m. But because they're still in London, I thought I'd do a bit of a different video this week where I just run through 5 tips I have that I find helpful for when I trade. They're not strictly trading tips, they're just general sort of eToro advice and things that I find helpful. So I've got my Akashi whiskey poured and let's get into this. The first thing is to something that I started out with. This is how I learnt to trade, but then as I started trading, I still use it. It's in my virtual account, and a lot of the time I'm a bit undecided as to whether I'd make a trade, so I do it on my virtual account. And then one of the things I find interesting is I will say buy something like Ripple, and then I will trade it. So on my real account, so I'll buy and sell shares at different prices, and then I'll go back and I'll see whether I would have made more money just holding it. Often, if I just held it, I'd have made more money. But another thing is using your virtual account gets you to be more confident and see what you're like without as many inhibitions. You can see what you're like if you were trading with different amounts of money, and you can also explore different things like crispers and see how they're moving. And it's a really good way of gauging how they're moving without just being given an eToro notification every now and then saying, oh, it's gone up 5%, down 5%. It's a bit more interesting to see, oh, I would have made 20,000 if I'd put this money down. Okay. My next tip is when you've made a trade and you're unsure about it, if you've done the research beforehand and you are happy with why you made the trade, my advice is to look away. It's to put the phone down after you've done it, especially for the first sort of half an hour or half a day. I usually will make a trade just before going to walk my dog. So once I've done it, I don't look at my phone for an hour as I take Skip out on a walk. And this is a really good way of clearing your head. And then just take your time, just let it move where you think it's going to go to. You got to picture a time frame. What's usually quite good is to write down when you're thinking about closing it. So if you had a date in mind to where you think it would reach, just really set in stone where you thought it was going to go and be patient enough to sit it out until it reaches that certain date. And just believe in what you're going to do, because often it will move down a bit and you'll sort of think, oh, was I doing the right thing? And then you'll close it at a loss, and then when it gets to that point, you'll realize you were right, and there's nothing more frustrating about that and disheartening. Okay, next point. The next thing I'll say, bit of a controversial one, you don't have to follow this, it's just a personal rule for myself. I don't trade just before going to bed, and I do break this, but it always annoys me. Sleep is really important to keeping a level head and not being impulsive. And so getting a good night's sleep is really important, and I find nothing prevents me from sleeping more than when I make a trade just before going to bed. I always lie and try and get to sleep and just can't, and then I always get my phone out, check out the Ripple prices. I'm trying to get into the habit of leaving my phone sort of walking distance away from my bed so that I can't just reach it, but that just never happens. And there's always a trade to be made the next day. You don't have to make trades before you go to bed to make money. In fact, it doesn't benefit you financially, and it just will ruin your night's sleep. Me personally, at least. So I would say don't make trades before going to sleep. Number four. Number four I have written down is double check your take profits and stop losses often. So usually you'll have a place where you think you can go to in mind when you open a trade, and that is where you'll put your take profits and stop losses. However, you'll make a profit or you'll be starting to make a loss, and where you think it's going, you'll look at the graphs again and you think, okay, that's not quite, I see it going somewhere different now. The important thing to do at that point is to then go back and see where your take profits and stop losses are. This is often when I often make this mistake when things are going well. So something goes up and I forget that before I wasn't as confident in it going up, and then it does go up, and I forget that I've got my take profit set at 50%, and so it takes the profit while I'm sleeping. And I would have stood to make a lot more money if I just adjusted leading up to sort of earning reports and stuff like that. So always make sure you double check the take profits and stop losses. And finally, my final bit of advice and my final sip of Asahi whiskey is accept victory. So this can either be when a take profit is hit and you think it's still going up, or you decide to close it and then you see it go up after. You've still made money. So long as you've made money, you should be happy, and so long as you made a decent percentage and your overall equity is up, you should always be happy. Don't chase bigger profits. Sometimes it's hard for me to do this as well, and sometimes I just sort of wish someone would say to me, what are you on about? You made 50%, why are you upset? Never be upset for making money. So sometimes it can be as simple as accepting victory and going, that was a nice trade, I don't care where it goes now, I'm looking for the next big thing. What else do I think's going up? So those are just 5 tips. They're not top tips. They're just 5 general bits of advice that I wanted to put in lieu of the live Money Talks chat that we do each week. There's been loads of news on cryptos this week, so we are going to have to do a video soon. Otherwise, it'll all be out of date. So we look forward to getting that out to you soon. If you'd like, follow our Twitter account and our eToro accounts, linked to in the description below. I should put it in there. Hopefully it is. Hopefully I'm smart. So yeah. Leave a comment on what you want us to talk about in next week's Money Talks, and please join us. Subscribe to be notified when that goes online, and I think that's all the plugging I can do. Cheers.